What's up, guys? It is Brian here. Today, going to be doing another career retrospect for a certain 49er. This time, going to be doing it on head coach Bill Walsh, the coach of the 49ers from 1979 to 1988. One of the great innovators in NFL history, and one of the greatest, too, making the playoffs every single year from 1983 to 1988, winning 3 Super Bowls, managing with Joe Montana, a little bit early Steve Young, Jerry Rice, Ronnie Lott, the usual suspects, also Roger Craig. Many great players to come through with Bill Walsh, and he is just a great coach, one of the best for the 49ers in history. So going to be doing a career retrospect of him. But before we get the video started, please give it a like and subscribe if you're new to this channel. It really helps out a lot. But without further ado, let's get this started. Bill Walsh, San Francisco 49ers head coach. Alright, so a little bit about Bill Walsh. He was a little bit of a college coach before coaching the 49ers. He coached in California, Stanford as an assistant coach, the Oakland Raiders for 1 year, the San Jose Asparagus as the head coach, the Cincinnati Bengals where he created the West Coast offense. Yes, he did create the West Coast offense that we all know today. People think it was created in San Francisco, but the principles were already instilled in the Cincinnati Bengals when he was the assistant coach under Paul Brown. And he also was the offensive coordinator for the San Diego Chargers for 1 year. The head coach at Stanford, because a lot of people in the NFL did not want to give Bill Walsh a chance, probably because Paul Brown was giving him a bad review, according to his son Craig Walsh on The Football Life. After that, Eddie DeBartolo took a chance on him in 1979 to be the head coach of the 49ers, and I'm pretty sure that he's not regretting that decision because, as I mentioned, 3 Super Bowls, hooray, all that cool stuff. A little bit more about the Cincinnati Bengals. He had a quarterback named Virgil Carter who was a great mobile quarterback. I guess you can call him like Cam Newton and what have you. He did not have the strong arms like Cam Newton, but Bill Walsh made an offense for him known as the West Coast offense or the Bengals Coast offense. I don't know what it is in Cincinnati. He created that kind of principled offense where it was focused mostly on vertical passing, not horizontal, not throwing the ball down the field, and focusing on yards after the catch. And it really worked out for the Cincinnati Bengals. They had a lot of success with that. And he also had Ken Anderson as his quarterback after that. Pretty successful in Cincinnati, and he brought that on to the San Francisco 49ers when he left the Bengals in a very controversial way. After Paul Brown leaving, they decided to give it to Bill Tiger Johnson, which was not a good move under Cincinnati's part. Walsh decided to go to Stanford, and he is the head coach of the 49ers after that. In 1979, Eddie DeBartolo decides to hire Bill Walsh as the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers. Their first season in 1979, they decided to go 2-14. Yes, 2-14. Bill Walsh. I know it's kind of weird talking about it today, but beforehand they went 2-14 at that time, and it was pretty disastrous. Not a lot of talent. Joe Montana just got drafted in Notre Dame, and on the 3rd round, you couldn't really do anything there. In 1980, they decided to go 6-10, but there's a key moment in the season near the end when they defeated the New Orleans Saints 38-35, one of the biggest comebacks in NFL history, led by yours truly, Joe Montana. Yes, Joe Montana, and that would be a sign for things to come, and it was a sign for things to come because in 1981, the next year, they decided to go 13-3, win the division for the first time in a long time, and face the Dallas Cowboys in the NFC Championship game where we all know the catch from Joe Montana, Dwight Clark, one of the most iconic moments in NFL history, and pretty much destroyed the Dallas Cowboys dynasty in the 80s because from later on, the Dallas Cowboys were pretty much irrelevant after that. After the game, they go to the Super Bowl and defeat the Cincinnati Bengals, the team that pretty much got rid of Bill Walsh in favor of Tiger Johnson of all people. Very good there. Rub it in their face. But that won't be the first and only time that happens, so I'll talk about that in a little bit. In 1982, there was a strike-shortened season. Decided to go 3-6, so you can't really do anything there. And 1983 to 1988, they made the playoffs every single year, winning the Super Bowl in 1984. But beforehand, the NFC Championship game, they had to face the Chicago Bears in a very cold Soldier Field. A lot of people did not give the 49ers a chance to win that game because it was freaking cold. But yet, they defied all the odds and shut them out 23-0. Yes, a shutout against the Chicago Bears, the big bad Bears. And in Super Bowl 19, they defeated Dan Marino and the Miami Dolphins in a pretty convincing fashion. Of all things, very good there. Joe Montana getting the best out of Dan Marino. In 1985 to 1987, they made the playoffs, but at the same time, they had very, very bad playoff losses, very devastating playoff losses. The first 2 against the New York Giants, and Bill Parcells couldn't really do anything there. In 1987, one of the biggest upsets in playoff history when the Minnesota Vikings defeated the strong and lovely 49ers that went 13-2 and was pretty much the favorite to win the Super Bowl. And yet they defeated them. Joe Montana did not have the best game of his life, and Steve Young actually came into the game, almost made a comeback, but couldn't make it happen. They ended up losing 36-24. Next year, this is a very pivotal year for Bill Walsh when they had a quarterback controversy even more with Joe Montana and Steve Young. He had to pick which one was going to be the quarterback, and he was rotating quarterbacks through and through. Ended up going 6-5 in the end. During the middle of the season, they had to pick which one he wanted to go with. Later on, Bill Walsh decided to go with Joe Montana. Yes, he decided to go Joe Montana, the man that helped him win the previous 2 Super Bowls and go 10-6 at the end, defeat the Cincinnati Bengals again, this time under Sam Walsh, his old assistant coach from when they won their first Super Bowl. Very good fashion. Joe Montana had a really clutch final drive and made that final pass to John Taylor, which ended the game. So that's his 49er career. He ended up going 92-59, a 61 winning percentage. Well, I guess it's kind of obscure because of the 2-14 season. But other than that, he only had 3 losing seasons. And then from 83 to 88, he made the playoffs every single year, winning 3 Super Bowls. Very impressive, leading the West Coast offense. Was one of the greatest innovators in NFL history. Couldn't really say anything else. Bill Walsh, fantastic and a great way to be a dynasty in the 80s and lead it on to the early 90s. After the Super Bowl victory against the Cincinnati Bengals twice in 1988, Bill Walsh decides to leave the 49ers, which would prove to be a little bad decision for Bill Walsh because the next year, 1989, George Seifert, the defensive coordinator for the 49ers during Bill Walsh's head coaching tenure, decided to go 14-2. Joe Montana had one of his best seasons in NFL history and destroyed the Denver Broncos 55-10, one of the most lopsided victories in Super Bowl history. Bill Walsh lost out on it, unfortunately, which that was pretty much Bill Walsh's team. George Seifert gets a little bit of credit, but I give Bill Walsh all the credit for what that team was, and they probably would have won the Super Bowl anyways had Bill Walsh stayed there. So yeah, he pretty much gets robbed a little bit of another Super Bowl, but 3 Super Bowls, not too bad at all. If I had to talk about legacy for Bill Walsh right now, I would say without Bill Walsh, the NFL would be a completely different landscape. The West Coast offense, the way he led an NFL team to pretty much a generalship, professionalism. At that time, the NFL was just kind of casual, but Bill Walsh wanted everything perfected, and it was perfected with the 3 Super Bowl titles. And also, he was one of the first coaches where he did not want to keep a player forever. You look at Bill Belichick today, you want to get rid of players a year before it's too late, and Bill Walsh was really good at that for the most part, even though he controversially got rid of some players. But at the same time, he knew when to get rid of a player, and Bill Belichick, I think, got some inspiration from Bill Walsh to do that kind of way because Bill Belichick has been the master at that ever since his time in New England on getting rid of a player 1 year before it's too late. So a lot of legacy there. West Coast offense still implemented in today's NFL, not completely, but the essence of it is still there in the NFL. Unfortunately for Bill Walsh, he ended up passing away in 2007 due to cancer. It kind of sucks that he did pass away, but his legacy still lives on in San Francisco, and without Bill Walsh, the 49ers would pretty much be nowhere in today's NFL. I don't think we would be having 5 Super Bowls later on had Bill Walsh not been the head coach of the 49ers, and I thank him for making the 49ers what they were in the 80s and the legacy that they still have in today's 49ers landscape. So yeah, that's pretty much a small career retrospect of Bill Walsh. I could talk more about that, but I don't want to make the video forever, so I'm going to keep it like that. Bill Walsh, one of the greatest coaches in NFL history. I put him up there with Tom Landry, Bill Belichick, Chuck Noll, Vince Lombardi. He is up there, but I would probably put him near the top in terms of offensive innovation, the game in general. And without him, the game would be very different. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you guys so much for watching this. Like and subscribe if you're new to this channel. And I'll definitely catch you guys up with another career retrospect next week. I'll see y'all then. Bye, guys. Love y'all.